Here we go.
Super.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode in the Expedition Cruise Leaders interview series brought to you by the Expedition Cruise Network. Today, I'm really honored to be speaking with Belinda Hindmarsh, the group's Deputy CEO, Global Business at PONANT Explorations Group. Belinda joined PONANT just over a year ago and brings with her a wealth of international leadership experience across the travel and cruise sector. So since arrival, PONANT has certainly made some headlines, from launching a new catamaran, remember that, to announcing the acquisition of a majority stake in Aqua Expeditions at the beginning of 2025, and undergoing a rebrand to reflect the broader ambitions of the PONANT Explorations Group. So closer to home, the company has also made strategic moves in the UK market by hiring Anthony Daniels as General Manager for the UK and Ireland last year. I can't believe it's already a year since he's been with PONANT, and expanding the local trade support team to bolster the work of the dedicated sales managers. So there's clearly a lot happening behind the scenes, and I am sure there is even more to uncover. So Belinda, let me start by asking you, since joining the PONANT, what would you say have been the most important achievements or milestones for you personally and the business?
Well, thanks and foremost for having me on board today and as part of this update. Delighted to be here. So it's actually incredibly almost 2 years since I joined.
Well,
it's just gone so incredibly fast. Yeah, really, really quickly. And you're right, there's been so much going on. It's such a busy space. The thing that I'm probably most proud of is really the focus on growing our international awareness. Very much, I think there was a notion in some markets outside of France and certainly outside of Europe that PONANT was a French brand for a French audience. And I think, we've been able to tell our story and really explain all about our pioneering spirit and how we're really redefining how we travel at sea in luxurious and expedition ways that hadn't been done necessarily before. That is in a way that's also super adaptable for the multicultural cruises, as we call them. It's very much a bilingual offering. So we have French on board, and we're absolutely keeping our French heritage and our French touch. But the surprising factor is actually only a third of our guests are French speaking nowadays on our cruises, if we look at it at a global scale. So really engaging with the UK market, with the US and with our APAC teams has been a real delight to really uncover some of these gold nuggets and understand what were some of the barriers to really getting our brand on the platform and on global scale.
Amazing. And it's actually a very nice segue to my next question, because I was actually going to ask you about the, how important is the UK market for PONANT's growth strategy, and how do you see UK travel advisors fitting into that vision and supporting you in expanding to this region?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the data, right, UK is such a huge market for cruising in general globally. It's the third market after the US and Germany, and we see it continue to grow. We're very, very committed to the UK market and growing our international market footprint. I would say we're very, very under-indexed, let's just say that, in terms of our footprint in the UK today. And I think there's a combination of factors. One is the one I mentioned earlier, that there was this misconception that we were a French brand for the French. But I think also we need to do a better job at explaining to the agent network what the offering is all about, where we go, a little bit more about what kind of fleet offering we have and how we can support them and their guests to have incredible journeys. A lot is still to be uncovered. I think it's still very high level in terms of the level of agent knowledge. And that's on us. We have to help them further unpack what that is and get more agents on board our ships, get them on more familiars, and make sure we have the right tools available to help them really feel comfortable and confident that they can propose their network to try one of the PONANT Exploration Group's departures. So lots to do, I would say, but a real deep commitment to investing and growing further our footprint.
Thank you. And so talking about the PONANT's point of difference, where does it sit in today's luxury expedition space, and what makes it such a unique expedition cruising brand, actually? So, of course, we know the French element about it, but just in general, what makes it unique, and how would you say is the where the travel advisor should be looking for that perfect PONANT traveler with them?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So it's really interesting, because I think if I was to pick out the three key factors, to me, it's always our heritage and our pioneering spirit. And I can explain what I mean by that shortly. And what we're most known for, number two, would be the destinations themselves. We have some really crazy, interesting itineraries that no one else can do. And some of that's to do with our fleet capability. And some of that is just historically how we've been wired in terms of pioneering and constantly building new products. And the third element is an important one, which is sustainability and our commitment, our deep commitment to being sustainable in the way that we operate, which, hopefully we can talk a little bit more about.
Yep.
But if back to pioneering spirit, I mean, it's true that PONANT was born 36 years ago by maritime seafarers in France. And expedition is what we have always done. It's always been in our DNA, along with sustainability. Our first vessel, Le PONANT, still operates today after an extensive refit, obviously, because she's 36 years old. But really, it's been about taking people to places at sea that they couldn't explore perhaps otherwise, really off the beaten track. It's just been part of how we've been wired from the beginning. And I like to think we're still redefining, this new era of responsible travel and responsible cruising with the fleet that we have. And I think perhaps the fleet is worthy of a few words, because it is quite a unique offering. We have our explorer ships and our sister ships, which we have basically 9 ships that are roughly 200 packs in size. They're slightly different, the two, but they are literally roaming the globe 365 days of the year, touching every continent. They're really designed in a way that they can bring you into places that are otherwise difficult to reach. All of our fleet are small ships, and for us, small ships is really, really small ships. It's not, the official definition of small ships is under 1,000 packs. We actually are the market leader. We have 14% of the market capacity in the under 500 packs category. And that's very much where we play, and very much where we will continue to play moving forward. And I think, you mentioned earlier Aqua Expeditions and the acquisition that happened at the beginning of the year. Their fleet of 5 ships is even smaller still. We're talking about 40 packs maximum capacity. So it shows you the direction we're going. A journey with us is really about intimate voyages. It's highly bespoke, highly customized, and I think that's really setting us apart from what a lot of others are doing out there in terms of destination and generally going for those bigger vessels. If you look at capacity, if you look at the clear reporting, you'll see that the actual under 500 packs is stagnating. There's not a lot of new growth and new builds in that category. But if you look at the 500 to 1,000 in the luxury expedition cruise segment, there's growth. That's not us. We're very much focused on, remaining leaders in that very small, intimate ship category. So I think that's a big part of what sets us apart. And then the destinations I mentioned, right? Like we really, really spend a lot of time and resource and investment in building iconic destinations that are new and unique for our guests. And it's immersive. We're talking about, really bringing people where no one else can go. For example, the St. Lawrence River. We had an incredible first journey at the beginning of this year in January, sailing with our luxury icebreaker, Le Commandant Charcot, down the St. Lawrence River, and really engaging with the local communities there. Crazy activities, like dog sledding and ice fishing and all these things that would be very difficult to do without having access through this means of travel. So I think these are the key things that set us apart.
Absolutely. I will forever remember my ice canoeing experience, because I was one of the very few lucky people to travel with Le Commandant Charcot in the wintry Canada. And I absolutely attest that it has been one of the most unique trips I've ever been to. And I would like to think I've been on few. So absolutely well done. Congratulations.
Oh, well,
And I am also very excited to see that you guys are planning to go to Baja California. It is one of my favorite places, and I do think it's underserved and is an absolutely epic expedition cruise destination. So well done on that, and I really hope I will get to speak to your team about that. The one thing you mentioned, and I would like to actually touch on that because I don't think there is general awareness of how much PONANT is actually doing in the sustainability space. So if you could just maybe cover a little bit of sort of, I mean, obviously, Le Commandant Charcot as a ship has two sort of inbuilt research bases there that help scientists do real science in destinations that very few people travel to. But could you just share with me an overview of PONANT's approach to sustainable travel to these destinations and how you are making waves there as well?
Yeah, it's a big subject, right? And I think, you know, we could probably dedicate 40 minutes to that alone. But, you know, this is something we're really passionate about at PONANT Explorations Group. And really for us, we like to think we're leading the way in sustainable cruising, not only because we have the world's only luxury icebreaker, which is LNG and multi-fuel, but really it's been about a holistic approach. You know, we can talk about all of the data and the fact that we're fast tracking our ambition to be net zero by 2040 and how we've been cutting emissions year by year. And, you know, there's a lot of good data out there and we publish that annually. But I think it's that holistic approach I mentioned that's so key. So it's not only about the basics that we don't even talk about anymore in terms of no plastics, etc., but it's also about looking at the current fleet. You know, how can we refit our current fleet? I mean, every year we're upgrading our fleet to look for, you know, smart ways to be energy conserving or energy monitoring. That's an ongoing process. We've just done it for Paul Gauguin, our destination ship in French Polynesia. You know, multi-million-dollar investment, and a lot of that was around energy conservation and sustainability. And then there's the new build, right? So looking to the future and making sure that, you know, we can really deliver something that is game-changing for the industry, not just for us. And I'm sure you've heard of Swap to Zero, which is a project to build the first zero-emissions cruise ship. Once again, multi-energy solution. It's, you know, wind propulsion, so up to 50% wind propulsion, solar panel, renewable fuels. But, you know, it does take a village, and we're incredibly proud that we've won some funding from the EU Innovation Fund. You know, it's a big nod in our direction that we're on the right path in building this incredible vessel. But we also need to make sure that everyone's playing their part, right, within the ecosystem, because you can build the world's best vessel with all of the best energy solutions on board, but then you need the renewable fuels to be there. And I think what keeps us up at night is making sure that everyone is ready for that, and that we'll be, you know, we'll have the support from all of the infrastructure needed to be able to operate. Particularly when you think about the remote locations we operate, right? We really need to find solutions. And, you know, it's a little bit the same with the shipyards. There's a lot of demand right now to build big vessels, right? And they're kind of cookie cutter, easy to do. Right now, there's a really high demand, so pricing is high. And, you know, who's going to be our innovation partner to work on building something that's unique and game-changing? And I think that's the other part to Swap to Zero right now, as our R&D teams look at what are the next steps to getting the show further on the road and getting Swap to Zero done by 2030. So it's a holistic approach. There's the onboard, there's what you're doing ashore, your current fleet in terms of refit, and then obviously building for the future as well.
Absolutely. And I think for those who are interested to learn a bit more, actually you can find quite a lot of information as well as reports on the PONANT website. So do have a look at that. The one thing that really interests you. Also, when I traveled on board Le Commandant Charcot, I think I didn't realize how many partnerships PONANT has with various organizations and sort of brand alignments and so on. Would you be able to tell me a little bit more about that and what the sort of thought line is moving forward, from, you know, the likes of the Explorers Club to some culinary partnerships and so on. So yeah, just that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for sure. So you're right, we have a lot of partnerships. I mean, the partnerships moving away from sustainability. But once again, we have a lot of partnerships there with the science community, particularly on board. We have our labs, our wet and dry lab on Charcot, which I'm sure you've seen. So we partner there, and we partner a lot with the local communities. But in terms of enrichment and partnerships across our fleet, we offer different kinds of engagement and partnerships for a guest experience perspective. You were mentioning the Explorers Club. Explorers Club is an incredible organization. There's so much wealth and knowledge. And if you think about what we're trying to offer, it's about enrichment and education and really bringing these authentic educational sessions to our guests. And Explorers Club do a great job of partnering with us on some of our destinations, being on board the ships with us. We're actually going to have our first ever Explorers Club representative on board one of the Aqua expedition vessels coming up next year. So that's exciting that we're able to roll out that partnership further. And then in terms of culinary experience, obviously Ducasse is a huge part of our world. We're very fortunate to have the only Alain Ducasse floating restaurant on Le Commandant Charcot. And that's obviously our standard as well in terms of all of our cuisine on board our vessels. We're also, I mentioned earlier, Le PONANT, which is our 3-mast sailing ship, the original vessel. She is a beautiful, elegant vessel with an incredible attribution, which is the Relais and Chateau, affinity with the Relais and Chateau. So she is actually we have the full training and the full recognition of being part of the Relais Chateau collection. So there's a lot we're doing in different parts of the world. We also have some incredible partnerships in the non-for-profit sector as well. We're very proud to work with Oz Harvest in Australia. It's a new partnership, and we've been enjoying very much engaging with Ronnie Khan and her team in terms of cooking for charity markets, cooking for a cause, and really trying to support what they're doing in a greater way in the area where we operate a lot, in the Kimberley in northwestern Australia. That's the mission we've taken on to support with Oz Harvest. So there is a lot going on in terms of partnerships as well, and obviously the enrichment of the destination, of the sailings that we have with Opera de Paris and some of the musical festivals we host on board is also a hit with many of our guests.
Fantastic. And conscious about the time, so probably one of the last questions. What's next for PONANT in terms of new products, itineraries, ship innovations that might be of particular interest and relevance to the UK market that we should know of?
Ooh, that's the worst question if we're short on time. What's coming up next? Well, let me talk about what I was just talking about this afternoon. So this afternoon I was debriefing with our product team, and they were telling me all about Bizagosh, the archipelago off the coast of Guinea-Bissau in West Africa. Very fun to talk about that. 88 islands, of which I believe 20 plus are inhabited with communities. We will go there next year. It will be expedition with 2 vessels, with the Le Champlain and also with Le La Perouse. And there's a lot to explore. So we were just going through the key highlights of what is on the itinerary. And this is a nice one because I think it's 8 nights. So it's great as a first time expedition. I think it could be a really nice one to try. Not far from the UK, right? So West Africa. And there's a lot to see. It's a UNESCO reserve since 1996. And I'm told there are incredible mangroves, there's incredible fauna, wildlife, sea turtles, hippos, and then obviously lots to do with the community there as well. And that actually starts at a starting price of £3,920 per person, all inclusive for that 8-night expedition. So I thought that would be one to share with you today, because I think it's a very affordable first time 8-night all-inclusive cruise that could be easily reached from the UK market.
Oh, amazing! I never heard about that place.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. It's this is probably my personal reason why I love this industry so much. Because every day is a school day. You continue putting places on the map.
Exactly.
Along,
I keep saying that since I joined, my geography just got so much bigger, so much wider, my map of the world. It's so true. But I think what's also interesting about that one is we have a Christmas offering and a New Year sailing as well. So that could be really good for Christmas 26, New Year 27. And the only other one I wanted to call out that I think there was a gap in knowledge in the UK market when I was over there the other week was the fact that PONANT has a very generous solo traveler offering. And I think solo traveler needs defining because, I was also new to cruise when I joined PONANT and I didn't understand what the solo traveler offering was. But what it essentially means is over 200 of our cruises, you can travel in the cabin alone and only pay for the one person, right? So you don't have to pay a penalty for not being occupancy 2 people in the cabin. And I'm realizing that's actually quite an incredible offer. Most cruise lines are charging an extra person or what do you call that? A penalty, if you will, for being a solo traveler.
Supplement, I think they call it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the one. And ironically, solo travelers, there's many of us. I wouldn't have identified myself as a solo traveler. Yet it's true that when I do travel with a group of friends, perhaps I have my own cabin or my own hotel room. So when I see solo traveler, I don't really even look at it as it doesn't really get my attention. But if you think about the amount of, big birthdays, anniversary celebrations that are happening, we're seeing it more and more in travel trends in general. There's a lot of solo travelers out there. So I thought that would be a good one to share, particularly with the agent network, to say, hey, you've got people traveling as a small group. They may stay in their own cabin, but you could look at the solo traveler offering on PONANT because we have many available.
Absolutely. And to sort of echo you, last week I attended a conference where this was exactly the one trend that was singled out by quoting the Virtuoso Networks founder, Mr. Upchurch. He said that the future luxury travel is going to be a solo female in 60s. So here you go. Absolutely phenomenal, because it is one thing that stops people from going away. And this is an incredible way to explore some. And I think even Commandant Coast has some voyages, but do not have single supplements, which is an incredible way to experience an incredible ship. So on that note, I would like to thank you for spending this afternoon with me, and I really cannot wait to see you at our conference in September, where I'm sure we'll talk more and explore more and spend a couple of days talking all things expedition cruising. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Akvile. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to September as well. It should be great.
Thank you. Thanks for everybody who's watching it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.